Between 1959 and 1968, Jean-Luc Godard made 17 feature films. Breathless, Le Petit Soldat, A Woman is a Woman, My Life to Live, Le Carabinier, Contempt, Band of Outsiders, The Married Woman, Alphaville, Pierrot le Fou, Masculine Feminine, Made in USA, Two or Three Things I Know About Her, La Chinoise, Weekend, Le Gai Savoir, 1+1. After the events of May 1968, Godard began working with the Dziga Vertov Group. In 2 years, Godard and the film group produced 5 films. A film like any other, See You at Mao, Pravda, East Wind, Struggle in Italy. During the spring of 1970, Godard toured America accompanied by Jean-Pierre Gorin, another principal member of the Dziga Vertov Film Group. The tour was undertaken in order to finance the completion of their latest film, Till Victory, or Methods of Thinking and Methods of Work in the Palestinian Revolution.
We think there is too many images, and as movie makers, militant movie maker, we have to try to work to work with more the Hollywood system, the whole ideology of the Hollywood system, which is everywhere. It's to bring to the people a lot of images, and so many that you absolutely don't see nothing. Like here, you see a lot of Vietnam picture on TV, but you really don't see nothing on TV. About Vietnam, you see nothing because there is too many. And so each one is cancelling the other one. There is too many. It's quantity and not quality. So we have to find again how to build a quality image, because how to build quantity image that we know. So we have to destroy what we know. And Hollywood is doing then a lot of image and no sounds, always same sounds everywhere. So we have to work on complexity from the sound point of view, and to work on simplicity from the image point of view for a moment, for a few years, for a few films, and then we'll know where we are coming. That is it's just pragmatic, but it came from experience. Look what the enemy is doing. He's using a lot of image and very few sounds. So we have to do the exact contrary for the moment.
Besides, we don't make the same images they make. We no more going and fetching images. And we know that an image is an image and nothing more. So you have to build the image and to build it politically. That means a complete new process of making films, and a very difficult one. So it took us 7 films to go some step forward at the point we are now.
To quit fiction, the old fiction, and to go back to try to bring new fiction, because of course images and sound are for fiction. It's not real, it's fiction. An image and a sound have nothing real. You can't touch it, you can't smell it, it's not reality, it's fiction. That's why in France very often they say we look at American, look at their democratic way of telling news. Not at all. It's a different way of doing things, but only in quantity, not in quality. Look at what happens with the war in Vietnam. You have seen nothing.
Well, I think we have
If the
seen.
people here begin, even middle class people, non-politicized at all, we began to say, let's get out of Vietnam. It is just because they are losing. That's all. It's not. They have seen 100 of horrible images on screen.
For years.
For years and years and years.
It's because the people who are in Vietnam is...
But just because now they are realizing they are really losing something, so why stick up to something which is of no more fun for the moment? Let's get out.
Wouldn't you say, well, on a relative basis, but wouldn't you say that on American television we've seen more of Vietnam than you saw on French television,
Yes,
about Algeria?
Yeah.
But you don't think that's important? That doesn't have anything to do with it?
Because after all, because when it's better to see no image, because when you see no image at all, it's enough to see one after, and that's what's happened in France.
The lack of image was very...
You think it was beneficial, in other words?
Strongly,
In a way, yes.
Because you don't get immunized to it. That's it when you see it.
It's just like morphine or nothing else. You have no... You are completely...
They all come and see it idly.
Nobody looks at TV, nobody
Nothing
looks at
in
paper.
life,
Look at the New York Times tomorrow. You are not reading the New York Times. So why to produce it? Why to print it? Nobody reads it. I mean entirely. So why? It's no use.
Yes, it's a use for them.
No, it's a use for them, of course. It's a quantity where images and sound. It's like literature. It's a quantity world. And since we have discovered that,
all culture is proliferating anyway. You have thousands of records, thousands of films.
That's why, I mean, for example, that's why we can learn a few things, even in our very specific condition, from the Chinese Revolution. Because the Chinese Revolution, they have not hundreds of books, they have one, which is good for everyone, because everyone brings his own subjectivity into this objectivity.
Do you see many movies now? Any movies?
No more.
Zabriskie Point.
Zabriskie Point yesterday.
What did you think of Zabriskie Point?
Nothing.
What can we think?
What do you think of this ashtray?
At least it has cost a lot of money, and
How much
we could have been living on it for years, doing hundreds of films.
6 million, yes.
6 million, just to blow up Frigidaires.
What is it you object to it? It's too...
establishment movie.
It's
Completely.
boring, pornographic, no use.
No, I'm more interested to see the pornographic movie in 42nd Street.
I'd say absolutely counter-revolutionary.
Well, you feel that, like Antonioni, for example, and Fellini, but anybody that's doing what are in fact commercial films.
There is no difference between Zanuck and Antonioni. Absolutely not.
Well, that makes the enemy pretty big.
Oh, but the enemy is big, yeah.
Bigger.
We know. As big and fat, but people
But that makes your position sound, more anarchistic than anything else.
No, what the hell was anarchism? We are not anarchists at all.
No, maybe I was, but I'm trying. It looked like that, and it was not even anarchist the way what is called anarchist in the political movement. No, we fight ourselves inside ourselves to not to be. Everybody thinks he's because he's in a room, in a house, in a city, in a state. He knows where he is. This is not true. He just thinks because he's speaking or he's existing, he knows where he is. What makes him move? What are the forces who makes him speak and move like that?
Well, it's been a very exciting 10 years for a great many people. And I suppose now you're going to run into a great many people who, and there are some people here in the United States, for example, who treat this whole period that you're in as what they call a difficult period for you, or a period of adjustment or readjustment or something, and they want to know where the old, Jean-Luc Godard is. Now, do you feel that you've always been moving into this direction, or is there something, do you feel any, there's this continuity with your own career up to this point? Do you feel that from Breathless to Mao there is a link?
How can if Rockefeller's son is becoming one of the leaders of the revolution, it will take him much more years, that some black children in a ghetto.
But there is this feeling, it's more likely that Rockefeller's son, that a revolutionary would be someone like Rockefeller's son, the son of somebody like that, than somebody from the ghetto. Very often.
Trouble we have to know first, because I escaped when I was from a bourgeois family, a rich bourgeois family, and then I escaped from this bourgeois family by joining the show business. And then it took me quite a lot of years to discover that the show business was a bigger bourgeois family than the one I escaped from. I didn't even discover it, I just felt it. And just now I'm beginning to discover what kind of bourgeois family it is. So I have to study it and to even trying to escape it, but to study it and not pretending we can create a liberated area like that, which I thought when I was only 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, the classical question for a revolutionary is ultimately, can the actual medium, working with a camera, can that be an instrument of revolution, or doesn't ultimately you have to pick up a gun or a bomb?
It depends on the specific situation. The situation in France is not at all the situation in Jordan and Israel border, for example. It's completely different in China. Completely different in Poland. So it depends of we think that in France the main fight is still the fight is on ideology, not on armed struggle for the moment. People like the weathermen in France, we can't disagree with. If I disagree with them in France, which I do, not against violence in itself, but the fact they are using it in a wrong way without having really. And it happens with them now that they are all in jail or obliged to hide, which is very bad. They should have hidden in the beginning, but not obliged by the police like the people here today. But here maybe it's different, because the way violence is used every day by the dominant power, by Nixon and the establishment, is really more open than in France. Or it's very violent too, but not really so open that here.
The problem, and
so that the country is much bigger here. There is much more people. There is the areas. There is really different areas between Berkeley has nothing to do with Texas. 2 or 3 years we might have to not to make any more pictures, because we'll discover that by that time the important things will not be the movie. We will not to do a movie.
I mean that the situation
will change, and then the movie will not even become a secondary part, but something not useful for the moment.
So you consider yourself at the moment more revolutionary than a filmmaker?
Working for the revolution through filmmaking, just like
not filmmaking, producing ideology.
Producing ideology, yes.
And producing a certain type of revolutionary ideology.
So only on my passport where it is written movie maker, but really.
If I understand you correctly, you want people to talk about the political situation rather than about the film.
About their situation from a political point of view, not from an individual point of view, but from a political point of view. And this is the task of any militant. If we have to do something here, we have to know what forces us to do it. If we need money, for example, and if we can only get money from America and not from Italy, and then we have to come here. But knowing what does it mean for us being obliged to come here for that reason, and being in this situation, then to react, to find out how to react. How to react, that means how to build a movie from that situation, and to know what to speak of. Is it more important to speak of Eldridge Cleaver, of Wall Street, of
and in which way?
The building of a Chicano party in Texas, or things like that? We just can't say. 2 years ago, I will have just chosen like that. Oh, I will speak of the building of the Chicano party in Texas, and thinking I will help the revolution just because I was doing that. Now we are just realizing we can't do that like that. That's what we call, like Dziga Vertov, editing before the shooting. That means thinking. And after that we have an historical part, because nobody knows, because of the Zionist propaganda, almost nobody knows what has really happened in the Middle East since the beginning of the century. Nobody knows about the Balfour Declaration, and a lot of people still think that the Jews have the right, just because they were Jews and crucified by Nazi, have the right to come into the Middle East and just take the land or push the people who want that land out. So we are telling the story in a rather, we are trying to learn really what Brett says is an actor, because it will be two Palestinian fighter, a girl and a boy, who are trying to tell the story of the Palestinian fight during the beginning till now, but not just historical dates, saying this, at that date it was that and what it, trying to say it in what Mao said, the logic of the people. And what is the logic of the people? It's to go from fail to fight, fail, fight again, fail, fight again, till victory. And this is the logic of the people. And so there is the main dates of the Palestinian struggles in the beginning of the century. The dates just said by the people, just two people speaking and acting sometimes. For example, is 1956, which was the taking of the Suez Canal by Nasser, which is a very complex situation, because for the West it was a victory on Nasser, for Israel too. For Nasser it was a victory on the West, and for the Palestinian it was the first time the advanced element of the Palestinian struggle began to realize in their consciousness that they shouldn't believe anymore in the so-called progressive Arab government, because they progressive, and this is the way, for example, the boy and the girl can sit. Suppose the boy say to the girl, you are the Palestinian people, I'm Nasser, and I'll speak for you. This is acting, this is fiction, but this is the way you can make understand that Nasser is not really speaking for the Palestinian. And so we go on through the dates.
The main dates are...
And the main dates are...
1936, because
1936.
That's the great Palestinian Revolution, which is almost unknown. It was... it begins with a strike, and it ends on with guerrilla warfare, but it was crushed by the feudalists and
the British.
And the British. And after that, 1965, which is the first bullet shot by the people of El Fatah, the military branch of El Fatah, which is the El Asifta. And it was a very small target they were aiming at, but all their problem was that the sound of the bullet could be heard by the peasants. And it developed till 1966, when the Israelis began to retaliate on villages on the border of Jordan. And at that time, there were huge popular demonstrations all over the country to back the guerrillas and to arm the villages. So that's one of the dates in which the ideas of the advanced elements of the Palestinian people merge with the feeling of the masses. It comes to 1968, which is Karameh.
It is a Battle of Karameh, which is the first victory over Israel ever achieved by Arab people, and not by the regular army, but by the Palestinian fighter. There was about 500 Palestinian fighters in a Karameh village, and there was because of the beginning of their success, Israel wanted to give them a lesson, so they massed 20,000 soldiers and intend to crush definitely the Palestinian, and then the Fatah, and there was only Fatah, decide not to withdraw, even because they need a political victory, and even they need a real political victory, and it was the first time they resist, and the Israelis lost a lot of people and withdrew. And it was for the Israelis, it was a minor defeat, I mean just nothing, a technical defeat, but for all the Arab world it was a tremendous victory, because all the Arab masses felt really in their heart that there was a possibility of winning against imperialism, winning against.
That's why this date is so important. In fact, it shows all the originality of the El Fatah's line and strategy. Now it said when the enemy attacks, you have to withdraw, and they knew at that time that they couldn't withdraw because they needed a political victory.
Because the sound by Hollywood is the oppressed, it's the oppressed tracks. There is very rich image and very poor sound. For example, when the people are seeing a movie like this one, they say, oh, the image is very poor. And we say, what is a rich image? There is no rich or poor image, there is just images. And that's why we are working much more on the sound for the moment. And we try to oppose, to work together with image and sound and try to relate, to link each other, but not just like that, to relate that in dialectic, to oppose them, in order to form a new unity, which is a movie. The movie is just the unity, second after second, of image and sound on a screen. But what is a unity? A unity is not an addition of one thing to another, because this is no more an entity. 1 plus 1 makes 2. We consider that in one there is two things, two aspects, and this is dialectic, which oppose metaphysics.
And the other thing is that as we discovered that an image was nothing more than an image and was not reality but something very abstract, we decided to build out of the screen, that means build out of the whole ideology of the screen, to build the screen as a blackboard, so that it will, be a possibility for people not to be stabbed in front of a film, but to, let's say, discuss. And we can't do that only because the films are closely related to the problems that us and we, as political actors of a revolution, are involved in.
If we success into making a film a blackboard and nothing else than like this blackboard, the place of the film is right here. But then it is your job, instead of being to see this blackboard and to work on it, it's your job as student not to be anymore the same kind of student, and so that workers can be able to come here. It's not to us to go to the factory, because in a factory there is no place for blackboard for the moment.
So after this historical part...
So this is the first part, historical part. And after that, through Karameh, through the victory of Karameh, we present the Palestinian, the struggle of the Palestinian people as a new political and revolutionary fact in the Middle East. And this new political revolutionary fact is related to all the anti-imperialist struggle all over the world. We have to relate it because it's fighting Zionism, because Zionism has been presented as an agent, just as an agent for is backed by imperialism. So the Palestinian struggle is just a part of the general struggle all over the world against imperialism. It's related to Vietnam, it's related to Laos, to Cuba, to South America, everywhere, and we have to present it that way. But again, instead of giving just a statement like there is only there is Vietnam, there is Laos, there is Cuba, we prefer just to show, to do it since we are doing movies, to try to, we thought of something, just let a Palestinian fighter look on a tape, on a videotape, on a screen, to some images of Laos, for example, and just look at it, because when the picture will be shown in Laos, it will be the contrary. It will be the Laotian soldier who will do the exact contrary, to look at on the screen on a Fedayeen. And so there is a very simple relationship without telling anything. And then we have images of a Chinese movie.
And why did we put the Chinese movie there? Because to explain that...
Because China has already achieved what the Laotians are still struggling for.
And the choice of armed struggle in their own situation, a reflection on the situation we have today, the split between the communist world in two lines, the Russian line, which is let's say peaceful line of peaceful coexistence, and the Chinese line, which is the real revolutionary line of armed struggle. And then after that we have to link ourselves to the film as it is made, to link ourselves as French militants involved in the class struggle in France, and that's why we show some shots of the May '68 events in a factory in a Renault factory near Paris at Flins, where there was the first emerging between the students and the workers, and a very strong opposition and violent action against the police.
Yeah, that was to show different kind of struggle against the imperialism. In the third world, where you have to go on armed struggle in order to liberate your own country, a place where it has been done, and they are still struggling. There is still a cultural revolution going on, ideological struggle, and another place which inside capitalist or imperialist country where there is still the oppressed people which are fighting on a complete differently conditions because they have no country to liberate for the moment. I can answer you by quotation for once. Marx said that it's a remarks of Engels on old Marx writing, and Engels just wrote that he reminded an old quotation from Marx saying that the first class struggle, the first example of class struggle was really the one between a man and a woman for procreation. So you can think about that. And I think that especially unless we are liberated by women as men, as a movie maker, I will be in the impossibility of really doing something good and with and for women. As a man, I need to be liberated by the woman. That is to say, by the people I colonize in my own personal life. Good. So this is mere an introduction, and this is to place the anti-imperialist stuff, is to play the struggle within the whole fight against imperialists, and then we begin with a real Palestinian situation and the originality of the Palestinian situation.
How, by thinking their own situation in a new way, the Palestinians have to transform themselves so to carry on with the struggle.
But it's how the Palestinian revolution is thinking and acting in a new way. So that's why we begin the picture with a meeting, a popular meeting, because this is a meeting, a popular meeting, is the expression of the revolutionary will of the people. And this revolutionary will leads to armed struggle. That means that the People's Army is the expression of the revolutionary will of the people. The People's Army can only live and continue to go on if there is creative elements of the people inside the army. The army of the people can only live and go on if there is an effort in order to develop the revolutionary capacity of the people. That means political work. That means the creation and the organization of a popular militia with all its works. And after that, there is a conclusion. If there is no armed struggle, there is no political work. But if there is no political work, the armed struggle is just usual military activity. So it means it's not really a people's war. If it's a people war, it means armed struggle plus political work equal a long popular war.
This is very important because they're always telling to the children, we will not reach the sea. Maybe you will not, but your sons will. You're the generation of victory. So all this process is a process of fighting between the old and the new.
In order to make a revolution in the Arab world, there is the Palestinian face and the Arab heart. And it's because of how the Palestinian face is thinking and acting that the Arab heart will beat in a new way, not in the old traditional way. That is to present the Palestinian revolution as the advance and an advanced element of the whole Arab world.
Because the concrete situation is those people are in refugee camps in countries like Lebanon, Jordan.
There is Palestinian all over the Arab world. Well, we think now we have to go back to France, but we wish we could have done that before. But the trouble then, even on my name, I couldn't raise any money anymore, and I had to go out in some kind. We have to go out some kind of like in an exile to find the money where Well, it was in order to even the very small money. But in another way, we thought it was not really harmful, and it could be helpful in that sense that, as Chairman Mao said, let the stranger help the national.
The first question was to ask ourselves, where are we coming from? What makes you make an image a certain way, the way the man with the camera is doing it now? And to realize what was our own ideological background, so we can build against the art of the ruling class a new type of art, revolutionary art.
Not to say anymore to take a picture, but to produce and to build a picture. And to produce a picture means that we have to know what production is, that there is means of production. And there is economic means of production, and then there is ideological means of production. If he's a striker, what authorizes me to take a picture of him? He shall be able to produce a picture out of him.
But do you feel you're pursuing artistic expression or political expression in your films? There is no such thing as an artistic expression, political expression. There only can be an artistic political expression. I mean, the problem, we're dealing with aesthetics as long as we're making movies, but we're dealing with a new type of aesthetics. But the problem is that you can't express a revolutionary content if you haven't got a revolutionary form, and you have to build it against a long history of the form, which is the ruling class form.
Art is not separated from politics, because who is running California today? It's an artist, a Western artist called Ronald Reagan.
That's the only one we wanted to deal with.
Really?
About political movie.
If A.B. Hoffman or Jerry Rubin is doing a picture on the Chicago trial with Groucho Marx in the role of Judge Hoffman for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, it will just be a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer militant picture. That means Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer picture.
What can you say about the revolutionary struggle in America today? For Americans, what do you as Frenchmen, not part of America's culture, see that we can do to further the revolution?
I can only answer into a very specific question. You have been asked to go to free Bobby Seale. So free Bobby Seale.
There's always a question of modalities. How do you free Bobby Seale? The army is trying to keep him.
That's your problem, and you have been told this afternoon about it. That's your problem. You are a student here. I don't know if you have to pay to be here or if you are here through scholarship, but you have to examine what is your own situation and then to learn from it. Do you want to change it? Do you think it's marvelous? Do you enjoy the life? So don't change it and support Nixon. If you think you don't enjoy it enough, so free Bobby Seale. And then we go back again on a meeting. We begin with a meeting, but here at the beginning, the meaning of the meeting, of a popular meeting, can only mean the revolutionary will of the people. Just a will, a feeling, a revolutionary feeling, that at the end, after having analyzed the armed struggle, after having analyzed the political work, to see a meeting again, we can call this meeting Revolution Till Victory, because there is much more in it. And then we can cut with the meeting, the shot of the meeting, again the color we have seen in the very beginning. But this time, here at the very beginning, the color is just a romantic, poetic expression, the way I told you. Peace, death of the enemy, the blood. And here the color, the same color as a political context, because of what we have seen in the 2 or 3 previous sequences. And on this color, we are expressing the political program of El Fatah,
7 points of
the 7 points of El Fatah, which are coming from the real meeting, you see, from the armed struggle, from the political, from the people involved in an armed struggle and a political work.
So all the process of this part is that you begin to show an image that you will take again at the end. They are more or less the same images, But in fact, if you look to the second one, it appears completely different because of what's in between, all the work you've seen, all the political work you've seen.
And in every sequence, we are doing the same. In the armed struggle, we start from an image, which is the Fedayeen walking in the desert or in the woods to go into an operation. And we deal with that images 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times, and we cut a simple images of what this work really means. Politically. This work means to start from a basis, to start from the country. After that, we have a Fedayeen answering to some question. Fedayeen, where are you coming from and why do you fight? And then again the Fedayeen walking, the march, the long march. And then a group of Fedayeen reading, and then we hear the sound of a political commissaire speaking of Fedayeen, who are you fighting? The long march, the basis, what is a basis? The long march, what are you fighting for? The long march, against whom are you fighting? The long march, how do you fight? The long march, how do you fight again? Which means, how do you organize your everyday life in order to fight the way you have just told? That means how the people, in which way the people's army is different from a regular army. What are the everyday, how do you change your everyday life? We end with emphasizing about the red, because the red is both a blood and the symbol for religion too. So we have to emphasize on the red. But in the beginning, it was just red, blood. Now it means revolution.